morning, it's gone 9 o'clock. Welcome to the last official council meeting of the Gisborne District Council. I'm going to ask Councillor Tibble to open with Karakia for us. Thank you. Okay, I take you to apologies. Any apologies for today? Declarations of interest.
I'd just like to declare an interest for the presentations. I'm a resident of Ngati Beach.
That. Confirmation of non-confidential minutes, page 5. Thank you. Let's go there. These minutes were sent out by Dee quite some time ago. You had the opportunity to take a good look at them. Moved by Councillor Gregory, seconded by Councillor Telfer. All in favour. 1-3 carried. Thank you. Then we've got the set for the 12th as well. Do I have a mover for those? Oh, it's the same. Why do I have 5 and 5? Yeah, no, don't worry. Any leave of absence? No. Acknowledgements and tributes. I do want to today acknowledge 2 of our staff members, Michelle Frey and Nikki Davis. They took on one of New Zealand's hardest endurance races, God's Own, in the South Island, and they came 3rd. So, thank you and congratulations.
Yes, please, Your Worship.
Yes, Councillor Ria.
I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Māori Kura Wakaama Club. Last weekend we went to the opening of the new Wakaama Hoi facility at Anzac Park, and they had a full day of celebrations, something that's been in the pipeline for them for over 20 years. So it was just a really awesome, fun day with and congratulations to the Māori Kura Wakaama Club.
Okay, next we're going to move into our public input and deputations. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to have you join us today. For those of you that have not taken part in a public deputation, I'll just give the quick lowdown. I see a lot of familiar faces who already have done public deputation. So I'm going to call Colin forward, and there's a few seats if you want to bring people with you on behalf of the Gisborne Yacht Club. Usually we allow about 5 to 8 minutes of talking and interacting with council. We do ask that you leave a few minutes where people can ask questions. This is not a debate. You are here to talk to us. Councillors can ask questions of clarification, and then we'll get back to business after that. So this is just a forum where you can share with us, and councillors can ask questions of clarification. After that, I would invite Ngati Oneone to do a public deputation. So first, Colin, welcome. Good morning. And like I say, please feel free. There are a few seats here. Morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good to see you. Morning, Karen. Good to see you. Please make yourself at home. You can sit or stand. The floor is yours. Relaxed atmosphere, and councillors are here all ears.
All right. Kia ora. My name is Colin Shanks. I'm the Commodore of the Gisborne Yacht Club. To my left is Richard Stannard, who is Treasurer, and to his left is Joe Martin, our Honorary Solicitor, and obviously members of the Yacht Club. First, we'd like to thank Council for hearing us today. We've been wanting to get this across, and thank you for that. You would have all received a letter addressed to the Council several months back, and explains some of our concerns after receiving our disappointing lease agreement. So we're here today to ask the Council what plans you have, if any, for the future of our yacht club. And I'd just like Richard to take over. He's got a small presentation.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, councillors and your worship. Our presentation today is to inform you who we are, what we do, and why the Kaiti Beach site is the only suitable site around Gisborne for our club. I've put up a few slides that are just going to roll through of the actual site and the likes, and the people and the types of boats that we use for sailing in Gisborne. Just a brief history of our club. We were established in 1946 with a clubhouse that was originally on where Berth 8 in the harbour is. The Yacht Club was moved in the 1960s to its present location on Kaiti Beach to allow for port expansion work. The cost of this shift was met by the club and mostly voluntary labour. The current site is GDC-owned land designated as public reserve and is adjacent to the channel through the rock shelf to open waters from Kiwi. The site has a required space for yacht rigging and de-rigging, and clubhouse and boat shed constructed and paid for by the club. There's also a paved approach and concrete ramp to the beach, also constructed by the Yacht Club, but available to the whole community. The Yacht Club lease occupies two strips of land, 40 metres and 45 metres long, either side of the ramp. 85 metres in total, which is about 6% of the total area of the Kaiti Beach foreshore, which excludes the log storage yards. Our activities, sailing in regional New Zealand is not a rich man's sport, unlike other places. Boats are not expensive, less than a regular mountain bike and a lot less than off-road vehicle or dirt bike that others might choose. The photos you see on the screen depict the small size of the sailing boats, all launched by hand. Activities centre around teaching predominantly young people to sail in small boats, teaching a love and respect to the moana, and developing sailing and boating skills through regular racing and recreation. We run regular learn to sail courses for anyone aged 8 years over and 8 years of age. What are the needs of a sailing club? Number one is sheltered launching area with direct and reliable access to the sea or a large body of water. It's difficult to launch small boats through surf and far more hazardous to bring those back onto the beach in following seas. Number two, a substantial rigging area and a de-rig and rig sailing boats and some fresh water to do some cleaning at the end of the day. Number three is a storage building, small sailboats and required rescue boats. Number four, an area of open water of around a square kilometre to develop skills in conducting racing. And five, a clubhouse to operate and to provide hire out income to cover maintenance costs, lease, power, water, insurance, security, normal overhead. So are there alternative sites in Gisborne? Well, according to us, there's none. It's been suggested that the Yacht Club could operate at Anzac Park or convents of the Taruhu or Waimata rivers. While that may be possible for initial learning to sail in those areas, they're already occupied by a large number of wakatama, kayak and rowing skiffs. Those sites have no spare room for rigging, boat storage or a clubhouse. It is impossible to sail boats with masts under the bridges to open water. It's also very hazardous to try and sail out and back through the surf and currents in the cut, especially as we don't have motors on our sailboats. Sailboat racing requires open areas of at least a square kilometre. The only suitable place in Gisborne is Taronganui, Kiwi. The only viable, though sometimes difficult, access to the bay is via Kaiti Beach and the ramp and channel created by the Yacht Club. This is used by plenty of other people in the community as well. Have we investigated alternative sites? Well, we've looked at the other beaches, Midway, Waikanai and Wainui. As we said before, surf beaches are unsuitable for launching and retrieving sailboats. There's a risk of injury and damage to boats. The rivers, Gisborne rivers are too small for sailboats. There is little space for a clubhouse, boat storage and rigging area. River-based clubs are already vulnerable to increasing severe common severe weather events. Other water sports such as Wakaama already use these rivers, and adding sailboats to these narrow rivers would cause a level of interference that would be unacceptable. Launching in the river and sailing out of the bay is not an option, as we cannot sail under the bridges and the cut is often treacherous. Sailboats don't travel in a straight line. We always depend on the wind. Looked at the inner harbour ramp. The ramp is too steep for launching sailboats used by the club. The ramp is already used by many sports fishing boats, and there's no room for a clubhouse boat storage rigging. Sailing with the harbour is also prohibited, and you can't enter or leave the harbour whilst logging or cruise boats turning in the basin. Other locations, well, the other locations along Ngati Beach are obstructed by the reef and have too little space for the clubhouse boat storage and rigging. This leaves the club's current position on Ngati Beach as the only feasible location for a sailing club that exists in the vicinity of Gisborne. If this location became unavailable, the club would no longer exist and the Gisborne would become the only port city in New Zealand without a sailing club. We therefore seek Council's support when the Yacht Club lease expires in 4 years' time. We're a community asset and the Council should be looking to preserve the citizens of Gisborne. The club is an active membership of over 40 persons and growing our membership. We currently have 16 adults and children in the Learn to Sail program with a waiting list for next year. We've been informed by the Ngati Beach residents that they are happy with the Yacht Club's presence in the current location. The land we occupy is available to the public. There's only a knee-high fence to ensure cars don't park on our rigging area. We believe the Yacht Club is a valuable member of the community. It adds to the social infrastructure and amenity value in the district. We ask the Mayor and the Councils to take our views into account before making any decisions to the detriment of the Yacht Club. Thank you for allowing us to inform you of our position. We're available for any questions that you should ask.
Thank you, Richard. Joe, did you want to add anything?
No, not. I think Richard's covered it from the Yacht Club's position.
Okay.
Let's just stress the fact we're less than 4 years to go. That 1st of November. 4 years' time, we haven't got a lease.
Any questions of clarification? Everyone have received the letter that was sent out about 6 weeks ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time and thank you for your public reputation. And like I say, councillors will, what you see today is not a debate. If you want, like Richard, you raised a question saying we want to know what your vision, or if you can then put that in an email to us. That is something that we can then get back to you. It's not really today that we're going to one-on-one attacks.
Yeah, so we're just hoping that the Council will discuss this in the near future and let's come back to us with some proposal, an idea what's going on. One of the things we've got is the maintenance for our yacht club. It's in real need of a spruce up, and we really need to know what our future is before we can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Next, I would like to invite Ngati Oneone.
Morena. Kia ora everyone. nearly Christmas, and here we are battling out this sort of stuff. Charlotte Gibson, for those who don't know, I'm Charlotte Gibson. I've come today to reiterate our place in this world, and for today's exercise was the place that we've just been talking about with the yacht. I've spoke so many times, I don't know what I've said to you in the past, so you're probably going to hear some repeats. Please just bear with me. I'm 65 years old, thank you. Thank you. I was born and bred on Oxford Street, where our family home still is. The bishops were up the hill. We lived there all our life. We lived the area. We couldn't go swimming on our beach because the paru that came from the meatworks. All my life that place was at Ahui, all my childhood life, so I don't have memories of swimming at a beach. None whatsoever. We became river rats. We had to swim in the river. We swam a hole in the wall and jumped off the Gadsden Road Bridge, because every child in Kaiti should do that at least once. And we jumped off the railway bridge. That was our life, which is really unusual because we're sea people. All our history tells us we were sea people. We have photos of whale boats, of little wakaama, wakataua, surrounding our village that was down there around Hidini Street in that area. So from 19 through 1960s, 70s and part of 80s, that was arahui to us. We weren't allowed there, it was dangerous, blah, 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 blah. We had a tipuna who lived down here, and I'm so glad that my cousin Mariah is here. This is her tipuna, our tipuna. Her name was Te Atapo Warakino. Te Atapo was the last tipuna of ours that lived on Onepoto Beach before she too got removed in her little pa. So when people say, what was it like? It's not a sport for us. It's not a sporting thing. It's not, and this has absolutely nothing to do with the yacht club. We're talking about something totally different. This is not a place where we want to be arguing with our rights as tangata whenua, as mana whenua, against a club that are doing right by their people. But I've just got to say, this is so important that we do want it back. We want the council to honour their promises that they made to us. Te Atapo lived there, and her children are still here with us today. Her children, her mokopuna, are still divers out there today. And that's the luxury that we have today. One of the things that we also wanted to do were a few things, actually, what we could do down there. And I was happy that Richard raised it a few times, and that was about the educational service that they might provide, because the whole lot, our life is educational. Make no bones about that. Everything we have to do, because we've got little people watching us. One of them's with me today. That's education. Everything we do, touch, say, we're being watched by the next generation of ours. So it's all educational. Us being here today and bringing my mokopuna today is educational. I need her to feel what I feel. I need her to see what I see. And I need her to see that Ngati is standing for her in her generation. So, we, Uncle Rutene Irwin spoke of this tipuna many times as a reminder of what was and what should have been, but of course it hasn't been. What we want to do in the educational space, lots. We want to do board riding. We want to do lifeguard training. We want to meet under the Tiakimona kaupapa that we signed up for. We want to have that space for us. The biggest part for us, though, is the erosion that's happening in front of that specific area. The Yacht Club have enjoyed that for a long time. We haven't seen any progress in the erosion around that area. Nothing whatsoever. We've been planting for the last few years now down there trying to save what we can, and we're proud of that. Just lastly from me though is, we made contact with the Yacht Club. We've made previous contact with the Yacht Club. At the end of it, Richard will agree with me, at the end of it, all we were offered was a place to go and we could hire it just like any other citizen in Gisborne. That's not a partnership, that's not even a relationship. It's a booking facility. And that can't be the arrangement that takes us forward from now on. It has to be more than that, and we were willing to have that discussion on what that might look like. Hey, there's no Māori in that yacht club, in the yacht club, none, whatsoever.
There is.
Oh, sorry, there is now. There's one. I'll just correct myself then. Thank you all. Just the last time we met here, there was one. That's what I'm taking this from. So if you've got a couple now, congratulations. Hey, the point is that Whenua was an area where Māori lived. They lived. It wasn't a place just to play. It was where we lived. I'm actually going to pass it over to my cousins over here, because I'm sure they've got something more clever to say than.
I'm assuming that my written submission has already been shared around.
Let me just talk to you.
Okay.
Speak loud.
To add to the written submission I put in regards to supporting our return to the whenua, I just wanted to add on Te Atapo's Papa Remuneration. He drowned in the Turanganui Kiwa River. The reason for death is written down as suicide. Remuneration was a pioneer and the pioneer soldiers in the First World War, and likely some of that impacted on him. But I'd also like to note that, nuku whenua, moving us off our whenua, added to the mamai as well. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to add. Tēnā koutou.
Morena, kia ora tātou. To those new councillors, I'm Willie Tiaho, mercenary, just here to attack this issue on behalf of Ngati Oneone. I just want to say to the Yacht Club, we want to work together. That's the main message that we give to you. I want to say to the councillors, we just want you to be true to the decisions that you've made. The decisions that you made in June of this year to create the statement of intent. From that, there were over 300 properties that were identified as Gisborne District Council properties. We only selected 8. There are 8 that we connected to. They're either right by the pa, like the last property that you supported being sold back to us. They're right in the beach, or they're right by where we have access to the beach, or they're in the access area of our communities where we want to do something positive to uplift those communities. So 8 properties were identified. You then noted and supported going to the next phase of a lease being considered for these properties. So we're just asking you to stick to the decisions that you've already made. In relation to this land, I speak as Te Aitanga Mahaki as well. These lands were targeted for us to get returned through our Tiriti o Waitangi settlement process. But you did the right thing. You didn't wait to be told by someone else that you should do it. We put it to you, and you considered that this was the right way forward. So I'm saying to you, keep doing that. Step in the right direction. Yeah, you'll be lobbied by people. At the end of the day, Charlotte, Richard, and the Yacht Club will meet and work through a solution that's going to work, right? And so let that process take place. Because if you're going to preempt anything, then stand by the decisions you've already made. That's all we're asking you to do. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora.
Any clarifying questions? Colin. Councillor Olga.
Just a little, ask you for a vision. In 20 years' time, if you guys got exactly what you wanted, where would you see the Yacht Club?
Oh, we would see the area, the yacht club. I don't know, but what I see in the area, that whole area is growth and erosion, stopping the erosion and that sort of thing happening, and the learning that goes with it. We've also wanted to set up down there, hey, there's tourism, there's always tourism, there's always Waiatitirangi that is down there to set that up long term as a eco area. Yeah.
So, sorry, Richard, can I pin you down a little bit more? Is the yacht club there in 20 years' time in your vision or not?
I have no idea.
Thank you.
Your Worship, can I just comment? One comment. I was the lead negotiator for Ngati Oneone Kahukura. If you go to the Karakia and you go to the Wakaama every year, there along the banks of the river, used to be a place called the Brooklyn Ski Club, right? When our settlement took place, they had 10 years. That's now used for Wakahaurua. It's now used for Wakaama, because that's the home of Wakaama, and we wanted to be connected back to our home. Ngati Oneone want to be connected back to their moana. They want to do the things that they can teach to their tamariki. While people see the Wakaama going up and down the river, there is a whole navigational culture. There is a whole diving culture. There's a whole kaimoana kaitiaki culture. We want a tūranga waiwai. We want a standing point where we can actually be us and celebrate being us. And so this is something that's been done in the past. You don't right a wrong by creating another wrong. Hey, this is the family that were wronged and moved off that land. You don't create another wrong. You actually do the right thing. And that's what we're asking you to do, the right thing. Are there examples of this? Councillor Alder, yes. So in Karakia, there was the Brooklyn Ski Club. They had their champion in Maihe Drysdale, who came and championed for them to continue. The people of that area said, actually, no, this is our area. We'll give you the certainty of 10 years. And then after that, it's coming back to us for our mokopuna, for our children to reconnect with our river. It's the same with us here. That's what we're aspiring to do. But until we have that kōrero, and we sit down and we have actually a discussion, we can't finalise the vision together. And so that's what we want the opportunity to do.
Well, I'm heartened by the offer to work together and to talk about that. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Oh, there was another question, Willie. Councillor Telfer.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't see him.
the one piece of the jigsaw puzzle, we've already been discussing this in previous meetings. The one piece of the jigsaw puzzle I'm struggling with is we've got a whole beach there, that we've got a yacht club sitting in this piece right here. Why can we not, Ngati Oneone, do something else on the beach? If you wanted to build another building or whatever, apply to council to be able to do that, and everybody be there. I'm struggling with removing somebody that's a working thing, part of the community.
Just a question, please.
Yeah. So that's just, I'm wondering, why is this?
Yeah, I guess, Councillor, you've been out to our meetings in Te Karaka. Even though we have Mahaki Tiaki Tangata, $1 million facility that we set up for civil defence, the reality is when you came there, the bulk of the community were there in June and listening to how we work together. And so having a facility for Ngati Oneone there is absolutely our aim. How we do that is what we're wanting to work through with the Yacht Club. And so we reached out to have a meeting before this meeting so that we could come with a solution. That opportunity wasn't taken up. We hope that the doors are open so that we can have that discussion to proceed. And in one way, having this, I guess, bilateral discussion is an opportunity to see where people are. But the best way to resolve issues is to sit in the same room and work through them. And we're committed to doing that with the Yacht Club.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
E kui te tapo, tēnā koe te kumaira, ki tō tātou huinga te rangi nei e. Maharatia tō, puna kua rewa atu ki te kāhui o ngā mate atomi e.
Councillors, I'm just going to lay out what my plan is for the day. We are now going to move to page 17. My plan is to work till 11 o'clock. Then we will take a quick break. And then thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. My gut feeling is that we're going to work through the agenda relatively fast. So I've said to Donna and Julian that I think we will move our lunch to 1 o'clock. So Julian, if you can just double check with Donna. I initially said 2 o'clock, but I do think if we look at the agenda, it's relatively condensed and straightforward stuff. So I want to welcome Sam online. Julian, my screen is not working. If someone can just see if it's plugged in, that would be lovely. Thank you. Okay, no extraordinary business, no notices of motion, no adjourned business. So let's get to page 17. Thank you. This is the committee meeting schedule that the draft was sent out by Julian a little while back. We try to 100% stick to this. Under extreme circumstances, we might move the odd thing, but we want to give people relative clarity of what days they are expected to be at council. I do want to reiterate that if you open up the schedule and you take a little look-see, I'll hold it up so people can see. There are lots of Wednesdays and Thursdays where things are not on. That you would have received some invitations for workshops. We're just in the planning of our road trip, which we go up the coast, stay one night and come back. So we will be sending out some alternative meetings as well. But this is the majority of what we can expect. So thank you, Julian. It was like juggling snakes. Any questions or queries? Thank you, Councillor Pissika. Did you second it?
Second.
All in favour? Aye. 3 carried. Thank you. Next, we are going to our terms of reference paper, which is on page 24. I just picked up a little mistake. But I'm going to open it up for people. So this is straightforward as well. Admin telling us what the terms and reference of each committee are. So I hope everyone had a good read. I just noticed the emergency committee is not myself and Councillor Telfer, or is it? I thought it was me and the Deputy Mayor. It's me and the Deputy Mayor as the emergency, because on page 48, it says the emergency committee of myself and Councillor Telfer, but my understanding it's the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor. So if we can just change that, please. And then I am going to change the JMA to make Councillor Parata join me on the JMA. So I just want to change that. Thank you. And it says here, chairperson to be, I am on the JMA with Councillor, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
a joint
committee.
committee, so the chairperson is determined.
But what I mean, I should be mentioned.
And the membership.
And the membership, the mayor should be mentioned. And then you can remove Councillor Ria and you add Councillor Parata. Thank you. Okay, the floor is open. Any questions or queries? Did you have a question, Councillor Mio?
I think there's a mistake on page 57, the local leadership body, the terms of reference, Rangapata Charitable Trust is in there twice, and Te Atanga Mahaki's omitted.
Can you point us to where?
Terms of reference, the bottom of
Okay.
57.
Councillor Naitama. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks for that. Good spotting. If I had a chocolate fish, it would be coming your way. Any other questions or queries? Thank you for sharp eyes. If not, do I have moved by Councillor Ria, seconded by Councillor Borosh? All in favour? Aye. I need you to vote. All in favour?
Aye.
1 3 carried. Oh my goodie, we're moving at the speed of light. Okay, next also straightforward. It's the pot of money, how the pizza is cut. Thank you, Julian, for the work you have done in that space. I open page 59, councillors. Councillor Gregory.
I just wonder if there's a conflict of interest if you're a chair for this place.
It needs to be adopted, right? This is quite straightforward, you know, there's a formula that we use. It's not you picking something. It is a formula by the Remuneration Authority that Julian then need to make work. So this is similar to what we've had in previous times. So any questions or queries in regards to this? There was a lot of juggling to make it fit in the formulas that is given to us. But this is very similar of what we've had every triennium. Questions, queries? Thank you, Councillor Foster. Seconded, Councillor Poro.
So I just had a question.
Yes.
This seems like a standard, it seems like a very standard paper. I just want to confirm that we're kind of doing what the rest of the country is doing. This isn't a special trying to put lots of money in our pockets kind of thing. So often as councillors, and I'm sure councillors all across the country, often get accused of trying to get rich off our ratepayers, and I just want to confirm that the Gisborne District Council is not doing that, and that this is standard practice across.
So we are given a pot of money by the Remuneration Authority. Your job is to split it with the ratios they give you. It's not like we can just whip up and say we're going to allocate it in a way that's not fair. So you need to justify, like we did with, say, Councillor Gregory's chairing. She's got longer and more meetings than the other chairs, so you justify it that way. But otherwise, no, this is stock standard. It's not set by councillors. It is set by the Remuneration Authority.
Can I have a supplementary
Yes.
question? Absolutely accept that, that explanation. Thank you, Your Worship. I couldn't see where, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place for it or if there's another place for us to have the discussion, for the sake of transparency purposes for our people, is an average of how many hours is the actual job of a councillor, how many hours it is on average to be the chair, and how many hours on average it is to be the mayor of this country, and how many dollars it would be that would be paid per hour for those responsibilities. I think it's important that our community can see that level of transparency from us as we ask our council to be transparent about the way in which monies are spent. If this is not the right place for it, I just encourage maybe our operational staff to consider how we might put that out to our people so that they're also aware of, one, the time commitment to be a councillor, to be the mayor, to be the deputy, and how many dollars that might be if it was paid per hour. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, I do have a mover and a seconder. All in favour?
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Thank you. We're going to have our lunch at 10 o'clock. Okay, we are now going to move to our next paper, which is the board appointments. Nadine, I'll pass over to you, page 79. What we ask of the CEO at the previous meeting is to take a look at the board appointments.
Sure, and I'll hand it over to Anita to explain what updates have been done.
Thank you.
Essentially, it followed off the back of the conversation that we had around tidying up the board appointment and remuneration policy, including particular focus was around the ratio of payment to the chair. Times the rate of a decrease that to being 1.5.
Yes, so basically this also aligns us with the annual report from now in terms of an assessment around directors' fees, which is applied nationally. I'll take the paper as read.
Any questions or queries? Councillor Alden.
Yes, so page number 80 and clause 13.3. First, a bit of an explanation. Am I reading this correctly, that if one of the directors, for example, of one of our CCOs or trusts, is also consulting to the council, that it's just the CE that signs it off? Is that what that's saying?
Your Worship, so this will be an instance where a board member of our CCO is going to do some work for that CCO, then they need to seek approval. And they can seek approval from me rather than come to the council.
Could it be added that the council is informed when that happens?
Why? No.
I'd like to know.
That's just not, well, add work to some people. What's the process around that? You can speak to that. Well, what type of work would people, and do you let council know every time you sign off someone doing work for council? Or I'm just trying to be consistent.
So can I ask why was the council included before and now is being excluded?
I'm asking of them. Yeah. I'm not sure on that answer to you, Councillor. It would have been a previously old version that was tidied up on.
Right. Because I just see that as being a little bit more transparent if the council is kept abreast with any directors working before the CCO.
I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind if that's the process.
But it's not going to be through, sorry, I would suggest that it's not through a formal report to council, but just a heads up, here's an update. Because then, this is the whole point, is around ensuring that there's appropriate delegations at the right level to enable that to happen, rather than caught up in the bureaucracy.
So, my request being turned down?
She just said she will send an email with the information.
Okay.
But she's not going to write a paper to council to justify spending 700,000. So it is being addressed.
Thank you.
Councillor Ria.
Oh, well, thank you.
Any other questions or queries of clarification or information?
Just the discussion at the last meeting was around the 2 times might end up being the chair being paid too much. I'm just wondering whether there can be some flexibility around it, because at the moment it's not 1.5 for either organisation, and the discussion was just that 2 might end up being that the chair ends up being paid too much, and there was a reluctance to go to that at that stage. So I just now potentially are in a straitjacket of 1.5. That's not the situation as it is anyway.
Setting the remuneration, it needs to come through the councillors for that approval, so the discussion could take place at that.
So what you're saying is, what Councillor Muir is saying is having some flexibility, which we will then have because it is signed off by us. So we can then on the day see where we sit on.
Yeah, Your Worship, so if in section 13.1 of fee setting, we do say, so we'll be taking into account the annual Institute of Directors fee report, but also we specify that basically the council, the final decision on board members' remuneration will be made by resolution of council.
All good? Any other questions or clarification or information needed? Not, so I have a mover in Councillor Ria, a seconder in Councillor Gregory. There are no more questions.
Oh, sorry, I do just, it's not about the paper.
Just ask questions about this paper at this stage.
Just on page 89, with core competencies. I think they're good core competencies and they're important for us to consider in terms of what we hope for our leaders in these spaces. I just want to know how it is that, like, a high standard of personal integrity, like, how are these things measured? Or is it a matter of the panel decides? Like, how are these things, this list of core competencies, how do we consider and measure them?
Through your worship, so as a stage gate approach, we have the recruitment agent working on our behalf screening, and they will use their own HR tools to be able to do that. And then it comes to the appointment panel, which is council as a whole, and you will have your judgment as to how you will do that. And as with any recruitment interview, there's a degree of subjectivity in it. It's not always objective. You don't always have the clear measure and framework in place for things that softer stuff that you just have to go through the process, and hopefully through it you regulate one another in decision making. And then we check it off with reference checks as well. But I'll say that we are going to undertake a full review of the competencies and skills sections for this piece. So just a reminder, we did a quick change to address some of the concerns last month.
Thank you so much.
Whoever's phone is going off, I forgive you, Terry. Okay, any more questions? Queries? Nothing? Cool. All good? Okay. I did have a mover and a seconder. Yes. Yes. Gregory and Ria. All in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Okay. I take you to page 117. Hey, Charlotte. Yep. Okay, who is going to lead us into this paper? Thank you, Jocelyn.
Morning, Tato. Firstly, I think I might stand up for this one, but first I just want to acknowledge the strategic planning team and their incredible mahi, specifically across over the last few months in culminating what is a really, really great paper and a great direction forward for our plan change mahi. So yeah, congratulations, Charlotte and your team. So today's paper asks Council to confirm several procedural steps for the Sustainable Land Use Plan Change Program. So, as we've discussed, Plan Stop has paused new plan changes across the country. An exemption would allow Plan Change 7 to continue under the familiar RMA process that we use and we have been using. So, if an exemption would not be granted by the Minister, this work would instead shift to the new resource management system once that's in place. If an exemption is granted by the Minister, Plan Change 7 would proceed as a priority under the existing RMA system, not under the incoming new reform system. So that means we would follow the usual Schedule 1 process that you would be familiar with in terms of the plan-making steps, full consultation and engagement, once we have certainty on the likelihood and the final scope of that exemption. So I guess it's really important to emphasize that there are no policy outcomes predetermined here. What staff are seeking today is a decision on the Plan Stop process step, and that's to request an exemption so that this work can continue meaningfully. The working draft content outlined in the report has been prepared for you all to align to the exemption application requirements. Certainly not to lock Council into any final draft prior to completing the Schedule 1 process. So you'll see there's a really great timeline on page 19, which sets out the drivers that behind the points in the program, behind these points, severe erosion pressures, strong community expectations, industry engagement, and prior council direction. If we were to wait for the new system, Tairāwhiti would be a further few years behind in regulating some of the most vulnerable land in our region. And that would likely be 2029, 2030, and that's when the new system is technically, from what they're purporting, switched on in its entirety once all new plans are across the country are in place. So for returning elected members, this exemption pathway does look quite different from how the council progressed the exemption for the urban plan change. Simply because that program was at a different stage when Plan Stop came in. It was at full, it had gone through a fair way down the Schedule 1 process. And the content really highly aligned with that housing agenda of the government. So we have confirmed with officials that applying at this point in the process for this plan change is fine to progress. And doing so ensures the best use of our council resources and our conversations with our stakeholders and our tangata whenua partners on matters we can actually progress under an exemption. So just as a reminder, and I know it's included in this report, if the minister does decline the exemption application, the process would end and these matters would be considered under the plan-making process in the new resource management system. However, if the minister grants the application, the team would progress the full Schedule 1 plan change process, and that's outlined in page 130 for your convenience. I'm happy to take questions. We've also got our wonderful team here, and Charlotte as well, where the questions might go.
Thank you for that, Jocelyn. I just want to... Councillor Gibson.
Kia ora. It's my understanding that the TAG is supportive of moving forward option 1 on this paper, and it's got good support from both business and mana whenua in that group as well. For me, I would like to see us move towards option 1 for the reasons that our whenua needs this support and pushing it out. We've got nothing really to lose if we push it out to 2027 to start with now. It could go further than that in the future. So I'd like to try to see if we can. I'm happy to move that we have that we move for option 1 with this paper, if that's okay.
Second. Thank you for he says number 1. Number 1. Yes, he's moving the recommendations, which are seconded by Councillor Ria. Thank you for that, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Ria.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just probably on the back of what Councillor Gibson has said, just a reminder to us all that this has come out of a really long process. Like, yes, TAG is currently involved, Citizens Assembly, but then all of the 12-month intense interviewing that happened in order to do the milu and the engagement on this topic, the hikoi that arrived with the petition that was done through our taiao ropu and the input of our some of our most severely affected communities like Uawa. This has been a long process, and it has had really robust, thorough engagement and contribution from across the whole rohe through lots of different projects that have come out as a result of the cyclone. So I just wanted to add that on to Councillor Gibson's kōrero.
Councillor Gregory.
Thank you. So I support this, fully support this, and there is comfort knowing that once this has been approved, thinking positively, it still will be going through a further consultation and publicly notified, so all of the community can come in on it again once we have the go-ahead. And I just had one question regarding the we applied for earlier for the urban development. Has there been any indication, that was about in August?
Yeah,
Has there been any indication about that and how's that going?
Yeah, so we submitted the application, we got a further information request, and then we sent that back to them at the start of November, and we are waiting on the Minister's decision, and we've just followed up again this week. So no official outcome as yet, but we'll let you know when we know.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Councillor Telfer.
Yeah, if we go to page 126.44, and this is covering Plan Change 7, it's basically saying, if we go down to point 44, there's three things here that are highlighted in these bullet points, and one is maintaining economic and social viability, ensuring provisions are practical and usable for land managers, and building stakeholder understanding and buy-in. And there's one thing that worries me right at the moment is that the biggest problem we've discussed around this table for quite a long time now is getting these vulnerable trees off that land as quick as we can. And we've been to several meetings lately, contractors and what that are just struggling to even get work and get consents to harvest. If this is not going to speed this up, then why are we doing it? That's what I want to ask.
Okay, Jocelyn.
Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Telfer. It's an important question. I guess the short answer is this. And also I can lean on my team as well, who are going to be intimately involved with that schedule process, the drafting decisions. But you'll see what's expressed in the paper, in this paper, is not only are we looking to provide policy direction and supporting regulation to protect the the highly erodible, most vulnerable soils and land, we're also working towards what that transition looks like, right? Which is a long lead in time, as you know, the work that TAG and the business case ultimately has been doing over the last 18 months. That's going to take quite some time, and there are a mix of non-regulatory and regulatory solutions there. The plan change for sustainable land use, although as stated, no outcome or no provision has been drafted or predetermined from a policy perspective, the intention is to support and optimize land use through transition.
Do you want to make a comment? So this plan change isn't about accelerating harvesting. This plan change is about responding to vulnerable land use and making sure that we set the environmental bottom lines at the correct level, which we haven't. We've had risk controls in a very permissive system. So this is not going to be the quick fix that you're looking for. That's not in the plan change. This is about clarifying the rules and environmental bottom lines going forward. The work that you're talking about is the meetings that we have also had
yesterday,
and yes, as of late yesterday, around the consent conditions to enable that to happen.
It's two
related
but separate. Same but not the same.
So
Charlotte,
Just to clarify as well, in terms of the current regulatory regime, just a reminder that that's quite nationally driven. So the stringency pathway that this plan changes focus on, there is an evidential basis we need to prove in order to create regional rules that are more stringent than the national environmental standards. So it is very focused around the risk and the adverse effects. It's and as a reminder, also it's quite targeted to specific areas in terms of the mapping work that we've been doing as well. It wouldn't be like the entire region. It's very targeted with that criteria and that risk, and given the NSC proposed change to be focused around erosion rather than the freshwater planning effects that it currently is until the change. We've had to do some tweaking as well and focus it very heavily around that too. So just to re-emphasise that current regime, heavily nationally driven, this would be around a stringency pathway to respond to adverse events we're seeing regionally on that risk basis.
And off the back of the MILU and the recommendations around the purple zones, this gives effect to that.
Supplementary, so you said this is not designed to speed the process up, but I hope it's also not designed to slow the process down, because everyone wants an outcome of this land being treated or retired or whatever, but until we remove these trees, we can't do any of that. So by default, by trying to get the perfect combination, we are actually slowing down the end result. And I'm just worried about that, and I'm worried about the people in the middle that are stuck in the middle, the contractors and their families in this area at the moment, that unfortunately we are hamstringing them. We all want the same result, and I don't think anyone's questioning that. We want this land to be looked at, but we can't delay it for so long that we lose people out of the industry in the meantime. So that's the piece of the jigsaw puzzle I'm worried about, that we're wanting to get it right, sure we are, and we all want the same right outcome, but by default we actually hamstring it. So
yeah, can I say through you, Your Worship. I think, thank you, Councillor Telfer. I think from what you're mentioning, it refers to the standard resource consent conditions and the 3 years of engagement, over 300 touch points ultimately with the sector for in terms of really providing education to the interpretation and implementation of a set of standard consent conditions, which is a very standard process and practice through the Resource Management Act. What's not standard is actually undertaking consultation. Unlike plan making, which has a full schedule dedicated to consultation, resource consent conditions are solely sit at the responsibility of the consent authority, who holds those powers, duties, and functions. So in good faith, we engaged with the forestry sector for approximately 3 years. Out of something almost 134 resource consent conditions, which were to address to and align with the National Environmental Standards for Commercial Forestry, and some of the changes which actually increased matters for discretion the council needed to apply, particularly around risk to downstream properties and risk and communities. So in response to those, so out of 140 of those consent conditions, and we committed an impressive amount of resource and time to work with the sector for them to understand and build them solutions that really the sector can front foot at the application stage, particularly around risk management and mitigation. So out of that suite of consent conditions, I think there's 2 that we're still in discussions on. And really out of those 2, one is a non-negotiable for the council, and that is a condition confirming that material that's at risk of mobilization into waterways and that would affect downstream properties and communities must be removed, right? That is a blunt condition. However, if forestry applicants provide a risk management plan up front as part of their application process and works with council, and the council approves that condition becomes then worded to risk is managed according to the approved risk management plan. So it's completely reasonable, but it's still within the law, and council's able to carry out its statutory functions. So there's nothing in the resource consent conditions for harvesting and earthworks or harvesting activities that preclude foresters from undertaking their activities, and we continue to offer discussions. So there are guidance notes we can prepare to support. I'm not sure if you wanted to add any other.
No, I do.
any other thing.
I did. I just want to come back to the job loss and impact conversation, because we take that seriously. We're not casual about our approach that we're making in terms of consents, and we're very acutely aware of the constraints that the forestry sector are under. But if we accept that it's solely consents, then we're losing sight of the fact that the market is going down, that there's issues and constraints at the port, that these forestry companies are currently operating under existing consents. So I don't think it's fair to put the blame solely on our consenting regime. What we are doing is working around, we are working on the one issue that we, actually in the end, that we decided to resolve and come to agreement. Ultimately, council can do as it pleases in the consents place, because we are the regulator, but we've agreed to step in, shape up some guidance around discharges to water in the consent space, and draw a line under that and try and move forward. So that's where we are on that. Going back to the paper, which is about Plan Change 7, what we're trying to do is future-proof the region. We've got science that underpins this. We have an evidence base that underpins this. We have the community that has asked for leadership from this council in terms of responding to and protecting our most erosion-prone areas, and this provides a pathway forward. And what we're asking today is delegation to be able to put that forward to the Minister to agree or decline.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not against Plan Change 7, but I'm against it being rushed through over the Christmas period without further consultation with fellow councillors. Following on from Councillor Telfer's push, and we're talking about de-risking our waterways, and this in reference to on page 141, where we're talking about the transition guide. And in that transition guide booklet, there's de-risking through harvest, and there's de-risking through non-harvest methods, which is in fact poisoning trees and leaving them standing. Now, I've been talking to forestry lately about this option, and they say it's a very high-risk option, because those trees will fall into the waterway. To go in and mitigate that damage, bear with me, please, Councillor Gregory.
My screen has gone blank.
Oh, sorry.
Just relax. Just treat everyone with respect and carry on with what you were saying.
I thought I was being criticised, sorry. So when a tree has been poisoned on the banks of the river, the owner of that tree will still be liable for that debris falling in the river. So although in the de-risking it's seen as an option, forestry is saying this is not a very realistic option. The option of harvesting, as has already been discussed, is severely limited by our current consenting issues. On page 123 and 129, we're referring to the importance of de-risking, and that this plan change, C7, is going to help us get there faster. My question is, if we've been under Plan Change 7 over the last 3 years, how much further ahead would we be on de-risking the TRI, and how would we have achieved that?
I'm going to throw it down to Lisa and Yana, because they've been a little bit more involved in the TRI catchment work, given your question is very specific to that, if either of you are okay with that. Yeah. Kiri, maybe.
What was the question? What is
So
the
you
question
wanted
you
to
asked?
understand that
If we were 3 years down on Plan Change 7, on this recommendation that we're going to have the power to carry on doing what we're doing, how would that have improved the situation on the TRI?
Point of order, can we really predetermine something that might happen in 3 years' time? Because right now, if staff are giving that reply, they're just making assumptions. Nobody can give a guarantee on what a decision today and the effect that it's going to have 3 years down the track. And when we revert to te arai, as often we do, I have to call a conflict Councillor Elder has signalled every single time about Te Arai. He has a conflict, but he continues to bring it up. Te Arai is not mentioned in this report, therefore it is irrelevant. Thank you.
Can I address the conflict issue, please? Because I've been accused of something there. I have no conflict on the water system, of the city water system. I have my own water supply. The Te Arai lower catchment problem has been solved and my land is currently protected by that. I am speaking on behalf of the city and the water supply for the city. I have no conflict.
Kerry.
Your Worship, we have taken some time to get together a process of how we're going to go about this with the transition layer. It has taken us, as I said, some time to do that. We're in a far better position now than we were starting this off. People talk about rushing this thing. That's one thing we couldn't rush, is getting that layer sorted out. That is the bulk of a very important part of where we are going with this plan changes, what the transition land and what the plan is trying to do. We've also, in the 3 years since, been using that information we have in harvesting, replant and afforestation consents, and we are getting a very good agreement with most people going through those processes that yes, this land needs to be taken out. So this will be a way through, and it's taken some time, but we've got some very good information over the 3 years. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to allow, I see Councillor Gibson's hand is up, but I'm going to allow everyone, if people want to speak. And then Councillor Gibson, because you moved the recommendation, you will right at the end get a right of reply. So you can hang on a little bit while we get people to share their opinions, and then I'll circle back to you before we put it to the vote. Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I just want to read the notes I've got, sort of a summary of this paper.
Can you speak up?
I just want to read the notes I've got, sort of in summary of this paper. Yeah, I'm happy to support the plan stop exemption submission on the basis that GDC enable industry to undertake the transition, which means there's going to be short-term risk for long-term gain. Consent conditions must enable the transition, not stop it. My concerns are that industry will leave the wood standing if they can't remove the trees under reasonable conditions, and hence by default creating a larger environmental risk. So yeah, I mean there's a problem there, but we need to enable industry to remove that problem. If we don't enable them to remove this problem, I think we're going to have a bigger risk. That's my concerns.
Can I just make an observation from my understanding? And if I'm wrong, hopefully I clarify it for councillors, but if I'm wrong, please correct me. Two different things we are talking about here. The harvesting and the debris consent conditions, which we discussed yesterday, which will allow forestry, because no one is operating under the consent conditions we are talking about. I asked yesterday, we met with the Gisborne Wood Council. People are still operating under consents. There's one consent, which Warren mentioned, which is the new consent. So those are being finalised. So that is a total different process of getting people, the harvesting, getting them the guidelines for the risk program that they can give if they are discharged, that if they give us their risk management, that changes their risk profile in the consent. So that's a different process happening on the side, which is progressing. And that is addressing the issue of getting people moving forward, getting their consents. I also want to add what Nadine mentioned. That is not the only issue affecting forestry in this region. There are lots of other issues, the market, the log prices, activities nationwide and internationally. So that's like a perfect storm that they find themselves in. So that to me is one side. This is a plan change, which we are talking about environmental bottom for the most purple, overlay 3B purple land, which will guide us later, but this is not going to stop or make this faster. Is my understanding correct? So we should not convolute two things here. Correct? Correct. Thank you.
To confirm, the consideration of standing trees is part of some of the issues that the team are looking at as part of the scope. And next year, should the plan change, get an exemption, and we continue the process, part of that issues and options and discussions with industry, communities, and tangata whenua, we would bring that back to this table for councillors to consider the options in the final. So it is, in terms of part of your question, considered, however, current consent is not related to this.
Any other, just someone who hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll come back to those that want to have a second go. No one else wants to speak? Okay, Councillor Alder and then Councillor Gibson.
I just wanted to clarify, I'm not against it per se, I just would like more time. So that option 2 was to be in less of a hurry to put in the exemption request.
I'm at a loss why you would want that. Who do you want to discuss it with?
Well, just so that councillors are more aggressive, isn't it?
But we have the time now. There's a whole meeting that you can discuss it now and ask all the questions you have. I think it's a case well made. Ask the minister. He might say no. So I just think for us, taking community leadership, what the community is asking of us, to address the issue. And I hear what both of you are saying, and the meeting yesterday was a tough meeting as we also progress those issues which is of concern to everyone, which is more the harvesting and the discharge consent issues, which would then help remove the trees which are of concern to some of our forestry companies. So that is happening. This to me is another, which were highlighted to us by the Milu and by what has happened, is that we do need a plan change to future-proof our region moving forward. So I'm not dismissing what you are saying. I think they're parallel to each other. Jocelyn.
Thank you, through your worship, Councillor Alder. The application for exemption and effectively option 1, which allows council to submit it before the end of the year, is got no predetermined outcome, and therefore would come back to this table. You would see change 7 come back actually as part of the Schedule 1 process of the RMA, with the consultation that's required. So we haven't, unlike the urban plan change, which actually you'll remember over the last 8 months, we brought papers to this table to say, do you agree for us to go out for consultation under clause 4 of Schedule 1, and we proceeded that to the point of being at the notification stage. So that plan change was really far down the track in terms of Schedule 1 when we applied for the exemption. This is a different case because we haven't gotten to that point. So the exemption is simply asking for us to proceed with the Schedule 1 process.
Okay, no more questions. Then I'm going to go to our mover, which is Councillor Gibson, who can give his closing thoughts, and then I will put the motion to the table.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that this is one piece of a really large jigsaw puzzle, and there are several parallel work streams happening. To not further this at this time would signal to our community that we aren't taking this with all the seriousness that it deserves. And to me, I think we need to signal to our community that this is top of mind, this is a high priority, and that looking after our high-risk land and our rivers and our oceans in relation to that is really key. We're doing this alongside industry. The TAG is supportive of it. Central government has indicated that they're supportive of it, and our community is asking this of us. So to not progress this today, or to go with option 2 and put the brakes on a little bit, would signal to our community that this is not serious and we are not taking their voice seriously. So I would once again like to move the first option.
Thank you for that. We've got a mover in Councillor Gibson, we have a seconder in Councillor Ria. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Jocelyn. Let's move to, so we're moving into a few papers now that are really, we're going to take a break. A few minutes. Thank you. So you will see the next few reports that we are going through are reports that we have to report on. And the next 1, 2, 3. So James, I'm going to pass over to you to talk about the, welcome Vincenzo, talk about the District Licensing Committee, and then we'll carry on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. We'll take the report as read. Just for context, this is a statutory requirement. We're required annually to report on the income and expenses relating to the operation of the DLC. I'll quickly preempt any questions relating to fees levies. I know councillors are interested in that aspect, and we continue to be curtailed by the 2013 regulations. In that regard, however, we've joined a chorus of other councils and the New Zealand Institute of Liquor Licensing Inspectors requesting review of that, those fees. So we've written to the Minister of Justice, the Associate Minister of Justice, signalling, a desire to have the fees looked at. It's been some time since they've changed, well over a decade. I think they were adopted in December of 2013. There have been successive reviews and not much has changed. So I think the most recent review has been in 2022, and those fees have remained static. But happy to take any questions. Got Vincenzo here for any quite detailed questions, but the report, as we've furnished in previous years, is here.
Any questions or queries? Councillor Ria.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an inquiry on what was said. Is there any other way we can really emphasise the importance of it? Because looking on page 156 and the tables, to see that it's about 80k that we run at a deficit because of the legislation says we can only charge this much, but the activity is actually costing us $80,000 more than the legislation allows us to. So is there any way that we can elevate that, that request? Are there any suggestions on how we might?
We are aware that there is an interest in looking at the fees, but whether this government will get to it in the remainder of the term remains to be seen. There's also the opportunity for us to look at a bylaw if we don't feel that the fees are covering us adequately. You will see in this report, however, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vincenzo, that our deficit is trending a little bit down on previous years, which is attributed to the number of applications that we've received, etc. So previously we've had deficits 100k plus. So I'll just make those notes. So you can set a bylaw and go through the process in terms of special consultation to achieve different fees, but largely it rests with the current regulations.
Well, that's actually
Kapai, thank you for the report, and I'm happy to move it.
Any other questions or queries? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, well, it's along a similar line. Page 158, with our deficit, is this common with most towns, or is this, are we doing something different to other places where we've got a different deficit and other towns may not? Or?
Actually, we are doing quite well as far as I know compared with other council, but there is also it's important, I guess, to highlight that there was some exceptional circumstances in this council in terms of manpower, so people manpower, and basically, so the costs are actually down than what they're supposed to be. So the forecast for the next year is that we will reach, again, we will go back close to a deficit of $100,000. Potentially we'll increase even more. See how the...
So most towns have a deficit?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
And just in that regard, that's probably why a number of councils have requested a review of the fees, because they're in the same boat as us in terms of them remaining static since 2013.
Councillor Telfer and then Councillor Alder.
Yeah, just on the same page, 158. Can you just explain the secretary and other support staff and inspectors and enforcement, they've both got in kind in the brackets and yet there's a fee. Normally I look at in kind as no cost.
You know, in kind it means that in this case this report is because the council pay a salary to all this figure. Now the DLC and when I say DLC, I mean the secretary and the secretariat and the inspectors and inspector actually paid, is the council that pay their salary. So there is no actually a real disbursement towards that. There is no actually payment. The payment is within the, yeah, but it needs to be addressed because it's actually a work that goes into hours that are spent towards just another example is that potentially the council can see to use external contractors to do the inspector jobs. They can be so in that case, then you will see in the report a proper disbursement, not in kind, but just actually money that go out.
Yeah, so just for your benefit, Councillor Telfer, so the DLC is the statutory body that sits over here in terms of its own entity construct. Council provides in the form of services in kind the inspectors that relate to the liquor licensing. That's that in kind thing. So it seems funny because we
I understand. So it's basically saying if we had to pay some outside of council, this is what the cost is. So to show us that it's a deficit. Right, thank you.
Alder? Councillor Alder.
Thank you, Your Worship. Apologies for my deafness. May have already been asked. Well, first question though, I've been hearing that the target is on a number of sort of suburban liquor outlets and that they may not be renewed. And if our...
I'm just going to pull you into line. I have heard there's a target.
Well, sorry, a better way of putting it would be that they may not get their licences renewed in certain areas, which will...
But this is not relevant to this. We're talking about the fees of this.
Sorry, I'll bring it back to where it's going to be relevant. If our income base is going to fall because of a decreased number of payers, then this situation is going to get worse. And my second question is that for a region the same size, is our inspectorate and enforcement cost similar?
As far as we know,
higher in other regions. Thank you.
Just to there is one and a half inspector working on that application. It was usually for the same number of licensed premises. There are more inspectors doing the job.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to this paper? If not, I have a mover in Councillor Ria. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Boros. All in favour? Aye. Carried. So next we are going to move to something which we do every time of year. It's alcohol bans that the police ask for, temporary alcohol bans. Straightforward. Any questions in regards to that? Moved by Councillor Telfer, seconded by Councillor Parata. All in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you. This is also a statutory report which we have to do annually. So you will see the reporting, you'll see the reporting every year will look the same. This is sent off to PIA. So I'll take the report as read. James, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, again, report is read, another statutory requirement. Apologies from Ross, but I've got Cherie here if there's any detailed questions. This is a statutory report. The statute actually prescribes what we need to report on. So this follows quite a prescriptive reporting framework in that regard.
Okay, the floor is open. If there are any questions, quite straightforward. Councillor Telfer.
I'll move the paper.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second the paper. There are no questions. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Nickerson. He's not here yet because we are moving too fast. We'll give Fuller a few minutes to be here. There he is. Look at that. Councillors, I do have eyes in the back of my head. Page 201. We are going to take you to the waste management and minimisation plan. Remember we had a workshop. Was that what we did? Oh, yes. Yes. So this is follow-up from that. The floor is yours, Phil.
Morning up. So just as a quick background, we did a draft WMMP. So WMMP is a requirement of MFE, and it's our strategic plan to guide council with waste activities and what we do for a 6-year period. So we took our current WMMP, and we sought feedback from the community. We had about 900 engagements over a series of events, from Pāwals to the rural transfer stations. Our kaimahi at the community caretakers did some engagement with the whānau up the coast and out west. There was some engagement at Pāwals. We did some pop-ups at the HP Williams Memorial Library and outside of waste management. Tairāwhiti Environment Centre did a big piece of work around the engagement process to get some feedback on our current plan, and that sort of shaped our draft, which is attached to the document here. We took the feedback that we all done, we created the draft, we came to councillors and had a workshop in August, I think it was, and just got a better understanding if we were tracking in the right direction, how it looked and how it shaped up. We were challenged to go back and just review that, make sure we were getting the correct feedback from our iwi partners in our business sector. So that engagement's been pushed out, and then we're just looking to extend that period here through, instead of coming today to say here's the draft, we'll do a public consultation, extra time to get that feedback into the draft plan so we can come back in whatever was decided was March next year to go to public consultation to have that potentially adopted in April. So that's kind of roughly where it's at the moment. We've sent out letters to our iwi groups and our business partners just to get some more information, some feedback on the draft. The general feedback has been generally around the layout, keeping our plan simple, with a number of actions that are detailed at the back, and refining some of those to be more specific and to simplify some of those actions, making them measurable so we can actually come back with facts and figures and data to support those actions that we're going to complete. And I think data collection and education was a key component to what we need to add to that. So that's kind of where it's at on that.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, the floor is open. Councillor Gregory.
Thank you. I love this. This is exciting that we are looking and ambitious to try and become waste-free by 2050. And there's some horrific statistics in there about where the waste is coming from. And we all know that it's going to take every single person to get on the boat with this to make it successful. And one of the worst, I'm not going to read out all of the worst things, but one of them is that 40% of curbside rubbish is food scraps, and how that could be composted and made into something useful and not be sent to landfill. But I just have a question relating to landfill. We talk about the fact that we send 3,000 busloads of rubbish to the landfill, but there isn't any talk in here about us investing in a landfill here or looking at that situation. Do we not care about that?
Yes, it's something, when we talked about those actions, it need to be more specific. One of those things that people are interested in, and it needs to be as part of one of those actions that we're going to look at what we can do with local options.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, and thank you for the report. I'm looking forward for it to go out to consultation and getting feedback and seeing how all that goes.
Any other feedback or questions on the lovely, easy read, engaging report?
I'll have to move the
Moved by Councillor Gregory, seconded by Councillor Karaka. All in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that, Nicole. Okay, now we've got a huge paper. It's so big. It's only a page long, but it is huge. Everyone will be aware that there have been massive government announcements in the last 3-4 weeks. So we're just going to have a quick chat around that. Feel free to ask questions. There's still a lot not known, but Charlotte will be able to give us a good update on the major stuff that is coming our way. Thank you, Charlotte.
So just before Charlotte starts, we just want to, so we touch on a whole lot of different pieces of legislation that has just been introduced into the House. Notwithstanding that, we've also got our local waters done well business unit that we are working through the implementation of that. What we know is transitioning into a new system is going to require a lot of resources and focused energy to get ourselves there. So this is a system that's been around, if we think about RM reforms, for over 20 years, and a complete overhaul and a piece in the middle where we're transitioning out of one approach into another. People have to do that work. So it's not just a matter of you flip the switch, we've got new legislation, and all of a sudden we've got 44% less consents. We've got a period of time where we need to move from the current state to the next. And that's a big kind of strategic piece that I'll be focusing on over the next 12 months. And as we develop that, we'll bring across it. As we work through some of the technical inputs and implications that we've got from our systems, processes and policies.
So, as I mentioned, not going to go into these in great detail. Some of them we've had for a very limited amount of time. Happy to answer as many questions as I can today, or just take a note of them and get back to you. And I understand that LGNZ has also sent out some info sheets to elected members as well, so they're a great resource to have a look at too, if you've seen those in your inbox. Also, just a note for some of these, we do know the submission deadlines. Predominantly in January and February. Others are yet to be confirmed, but we should hopefully know all of the relevant deadlines for January and February by the end of next week. To start off with, this is, as Nadine mentioned, multiple reforms going on. These are just the ones that have been recently announced. This is on top of any of the existing ones too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 7 are the ones that we have some details on this week. We are potentially expecting a few more as well before we up for Christmas.
What's happening with the public works there? I wasn't
I've got
aware
a
of that.
slide. you. So I've got one slide on each of these just to explain at a really high level what they're about, what it might mean for council, and if we know the submission date or any consultation, what that is. And we've tried to simplify it as much as we can, but as I mentioned, some of these are quite complex and large, so there is a lot more detail that sits behind them. Simplifying local government, a little flowchart here, so you can sort of get a high-level overview of the process. And these slides will be available to you as well. And then down the bottom, we've got the indicative timeframes. So with this one, it's a proposal. It's not a draft piece of legislation. So they're asking for some feedback on some targeted proposals and outline some issues and options around them. In terms of what it means for us as a unitary authority, we're not required to go through this process with other councils unless we chose to participate with other councils. So we already have a combined plan, and will still be required to have a combined plan over the incoming legislation. So that still remains relatively similar for us. Regional functions, council functions continue for now. However, they have noted in the Simplifying Local Government proposal that they are planning to do a review of those probably next year and into the year after that, to look across where functions should be sit in the system as a whole, whether that's at a local level or a national level, or where they believe they may no longer be necessary as the wording in the document. So we have no detail on that. That is something still to come. I guess in terms of, it is quite a bit of disruption for some of our neighbours that we work with and across the sector. And that disruption, it has a really key impact on staff in terms of our ability to collaborate and really have that collective sector humming at its best to respond to the reforms and the type and mahi that's needed across the variety of other topics. That's probably a really key impact in terms of staff. Rates caffeine. There's been quite a lot of media attention on this one. I won't go into it in too much detail. I'll let Pauline feel free to chip in if I have got anything wrong here. But so proposing to introduce the rates capping regime for local government, sort of around 2 to 4%. There'd be a process where it'd get reviewed, and you wouldn't be able to increase rates beyond that without permission from a new regulator. So in terms of what it would mean, DAA have noted that they're monitoring increases for the 2027 LTPs. There's no statutory cap as yet, but the Minister may choose to intervene if it goes above 4%, has been noted. And I guess in terms of the 2027 LTP process, there'll be some quite difficult conversations and trade-offs for you to discuss as a council as part of that. Targeted consultation to February 26, primarily happening through LGNZ.
What's shocking though about the consultation is, which I found out yesterday, targeted consultation mean they're asking no one, they're asking LGNZ and only the 6 councils who are, so there are 77 councils, 71 of those are part of LGNZ, so they're asking LGNZ to talk to their members and get their feedback, but they are only asking LGNZ and the few councils that are not part of it, which I think is, people are waiting to be consulted on this, and I think LGNZ is pushing back saying you need to open it up so that all councils can have a say. I'm having a Zoom with the Minister at 3:30 today, and we'll be raising that with them as well, because people feel left out if you say targeted consultation, but every single council is an affected party. So it is something that's not going down well.
So in terms of timeframes, legislation being enacted in 26 and in effect January 27, and a full regulatory model with that new regulator I mentioned by the 1st of July 2029, if it goes ahead as.
just to clarify, this means this will come into effect if it carries on in our new 10-year plan. It's not affecting our 3-year recovery plan. We've set that and we will work with that. So as we start planning for our 10-year plan, this will then, in whatever form it's passed in Parliament, will then come into effect.
Correct, and one of the things you've done historically in your financial strategy and your long-term plan is talk about your rates limit.
Yes.
You'll remember previous councillors around the table, so you'd no longer be having that conversation.
Yep.
That would be set at this national level instead. Infrastructure funding. So there's two particular bills around infrastructure funding. One relates to replacing the development contribution system with a development levy system, and then the other one is the Infrastructure Funding and Financing Act, which is quite a specific mechanism we can use to access particular infrastructure funding, but it is not something we've currently doing. It's intended for very large projects. So key things would be levies would be sort of an aggregate or an average basis for an urban area rather than a specific development or project basis. That's probably a key kind of difference from how development contributions and how they are calculated. So it does provide a little bit of flexibility around improved cost recovery for infrastructure for that growth infrastructure compared to the current development contributions calculation and methodology. And in terms of what that means, if council wishes to, we can submit on the local government bill was the one relating to the development levy system, just to clarify. Submissions close on that on the 20th of February. And then it would go through a select committee process, and post the outcome of that. They're proposing it would be enacted, and then development levies would be able to be charged from 2028 under the timeframes, and the ability to, and that 28 to 2030 would be a little bit of a transition period where both would be in place to give you time to do a new policy and relate it back to your long-term plan as well. So obviously long-term plans in 2027, and the next long-term plan after that will be 2030. So that's the rationale behind the timing, I believe. So yes. And the RM bills, I couldn't quite, the team couldn't quite put this into one slide because it is quite large, so this one has a couple of slides for it. So we've talked a little bit about it before for those who are returning elected members, but in any sense, RMA being replaced by two new acts, one being the planning bill, one being the natural environment bill. The key driver behind them being about making it easier to get things done, as in terms of some of the media releases that you've seen and the rationale for the proposals. Requires a single combined plan for each region. As I mentioned before, we already have a single combined plan. However, our new single combined plan would look a bit different to our current one, obviously. We would have a spatial plan component, a land use plan and a natural environment plan component. So, and the sequencing of them is spatial plan prepared first, and then provides for the integration between the two other plans. Then once you've done the spatial plan, you would then, for the transition, you would then concurrently develop and put in place your land use plan and your natural environment plan. And then, like with a lot of legislation, when you're moving from one system to another, they do include a section in those types of bills which talk about transitional matters, and then they sort of have a bit of an end date. So when they talk about switching the system on, then those transitional things in those bills would then be repealed automatically normally. And then alongside this, just a note, and I've put a slide in at the end on it, to also help support this transition from current system to new system, there was a resource management amendment bill passed under urgency this week as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the regulatory relief framework, because the media is very interested in that?
Yeah. So let me bring up my diagram so I do not put you on the wrong foot. There's actually quite a good diagram on the Ministry for Environment website which explains this, and at the regulatory relief, it's not wholesale. So
because that's totally new.
It is totally new, but it's not wholesale in terms of how it applies in the new system. It's relevant to any controls council considers relating to significant historic heritage, Indigenous biodiversity, outstanding natural features and landscapes, coastal areas and waterways with high natural character, and sites of significance to Māori. And in terms of what we will need to consider is when we go through our planning process is consider and justify the applications of controls to these relevant sites first, consider the impact of those controls, and then proactively identify and set out some regulatory relief mechanisms which we believe are appropriate.
So that would be like rates relief or concessionary.
Some examples that are given that you could consider would be rate reductions, bonus development rights as mentioned, and cash is also mentioned. We haven't looked into it in a great detail yet, but at a high level that is.
So how the Minister framed it, or how I understood it, is that there will be certain criteria set by the government if we as a region then decide under those headings that you just read out that we want in our plan for our stuff, our local stuff, to be stricter than what the government is putting in their rules, we are possibly liable for compensation to people who want to do something in that space. Is that correct?
Yeah, at a high level, yeah. As I said, we've deep dived the entirety of that clause yet and how it might work, but it is a key area we're considering for this submission. You may have seen this funnel diagram in some of the media releases. So, key thing around this is that under the new system, they're proposing that a lot of decisions are sort of made in that centralised area, and then that sort of comes out, and then regionally we would make some particular decisions, and then there'd be a lot less breadth in the types of decisions being made through the consenting regime or permit regime, because there are consents and permits under the new regime and the new system. And a key idea, a key principle around that also being that you, how have they phrased it, you can't relitigate decisions that have been made at the previous level.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so there was, you might recall in 2017, there was the Supreme Court case of R.B. Davidson and King Salmon, which basically, this system here codifies that ultimately. So the argument and the argument that was won was if a planning system has a whakapapa already, like the RMA had with the hierarchy, RMA has with the principal legislation, national legislation, regional policy, and then the district plans that go underneath district and regional plans, if at every consent stage or at every, there be the purpose and those things are being relitigated, that's not a good outcome. So this is actually codifying and fixing that particular things. Yeah.
And there were 17 plans, there's currently 100, I think.
100 plus, if you count all the district, and to clarify, the 17 is the regional and unitaries in the Chatham Islands, if you're wondering where the 17 comes from. In terms of it means for council. During the transition period, we continue to use our current TRMP and the RMA for the processes alongside any requirements that are coded in through those transitional arrangements and the new acts that I mentioned. So, for example, consents. We will be required to prepare a new combined plan, starting off with a regional spatial plan chapter. There's more limited goals under the bills and increased national standardisation as part of what they're proposing for the new system. However, just to note, the national direction and the national standards, they're not part of the information that's been released. They've not been finalised and developed. So in terms of what that looks like, unsure. But it will likely mean that council may not be able to manage some of the matters that are important to our region through our combined plan based on that principle around not being able to re-litigate at a regional level what has been decided at a national level except within the parameters set. A new spatial plan committee. The Minister can appoint a member should they wish. And then we also need to prepare a land use plan and a natural environment plan. Submission period is not yet set. The sector is expecting to be a due date of perhaps late January or February. Depends on when it's had its first reading and been referred to select committee. Based on the timeline, bills are likely to gain royal assent and be in sort of middle of next year. And then the transition period starts from the day they receive royal assent. Also, from that day, the government will have 9 months to prepare and put out any of the national directional instruments relevant to that. Within that same period, we will have 15 months post-enactment to draft our regional spatial plan and notify it. And then we will have 9 months post our spatial plan decisions to prepare and notify our land use plan and natural environment plan. So that's the proposed timeframes as it's currently set out. Yeah. And I would say if you do just want to read one thing about these two bills, the Better Planning for a Better New Zealand page on MFE provides a really good high-level overview across the two in terms of the processes. It is quite a long web page, but and it has a few diagrams in it as well to help explain the processes. So if you read one thing, I would suggest that. And then, as I mentioned before, this was passed under urgency this week. I think it's now law as of last night.
Passed on Tuesday.
So this is around helping maintain stability during the transition period prior to the 2 new bills being in place. So this amends the RMA. And it applies to some of the expiry dates around consents and automatically extending them out. There's a couple of tiny exclusions, but not many. It applies to most consents, pretty much everything. So in terms of what does that mean for council, there's explicitly not a requirement necessarily on the consent holder to get in touch with us about extending the expiry date. We are required to update those in our records, and we can also continue processing applications for renewed consents under the RMA. If consent holders wish to do that instead of just having it automatically extended, that's still open to them if they wanted to maybe renegotiate or relook at the consent parameters.
Consents currently in our system, like water consents, forestry consents, what other building consents?
Not building consents under the Building Act, not those, just the under Resource Management Act. So in terms of the water, they can't be extended beyond a total duration of 35 years, so it depends on how long that consent has.
So if someone is right at the end of their consent life, currently that automatic 2031 extension will not apply to them. The 35-year limit will still apply to them.
35-year limit overrides the 31st for the water consent zone.
That wasn't said on the day.
No, it's buried in the details. Yes, and yeah, as mentioned, already in place now, and we have to work on some costs around it as well as updating our system.
I get asked a lot about new building rules with the 70 square metre homes and stuff, so the detail for that's likely to come out June, July 26, is that correct? Or?
Are you talking about
the Building Act change, the amendments to the Building Act?
Yeah, in terms of the 70 square metre homes, is actual detail out yet, or that's coming out? I saw the Royal Assent June, July 26.
There is a little bit out, and there's also a complementary package under the RMA in order for it to, in terms of a national environment standard around
minor residential dwellings, no longer grandfathers.
Yeah, so there's 2 system changes that kind of make up the suite that would then provide that easier pathway for that part of the community. If we can, I've not included it in this slideshow as it's something that's been out for a little while, but I can send you some links to the relevant timeframes.
So that's already in effect, or it's not in effect yet?
Not in effect yet.
So when's it likely? I'll just ask when it's...
I would need to quickly check that and come back to you, sorry. I don't have that front of mind.
Thank you.
Councillor Ria.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you those who put together the report. Thank you for being able to remain neutral in your delivery of those huge pieces of work. I know I felt within myself my temperature rise and fall with certain aspects of the changes that we see coming through. I just wanted, because averages was mentioned there a lot in the change. Do you have any indication on how those averages will be determined, given that we're already a unitary with a small population and a large land mass? We don't fit into your average. So when it says the average, I'm like, oh, so what does that mean for us? Because we're definitely not in the realm of average. So just a little bit of worry there for us. I saw you nod, so there's no explanation of what average might be. I was wondering if we could get if you could please send the PowerPoint and also those links you talked about. There were about 3 pages.
The link.
You mentioned. Yep, pop those through to us. And last but not least, sort of as a council, for us to consider that if, you know, when we went through COVID, our neighbouring councils really went out of their way to offer support and a hand. And given that we're the only unitary council on the East Coast, if one of our neighbours goes, what is a unitary? What does it does? You know, how can we possibly support our region or our zone for councils who are wanting to find out more about unitary, because we've been running it for a long time now. We have a lot of experience in a unitary, and this is going to be a whole new ball game for a lot of councils. So I just wanted to make a note of that. And I will move the paper. I
think we're still busy with the presentation.
Sorry, we've still got we're all done. It's already a lot.
You may not have spied this one, but the Emergency Management Bill came out on the same day as the RM Reform Bill, so it was a little bit buried. This is something that's also been in the pipeline for a long time in terms of reform and change. So it would replace the current CDM Act, a bit of a change around roles, accountabilities, training and accreditation for emergency management, idea being to lift and shift the system. And TEMO, which is a local civil defence emergency management team, would have a bit of more of a mandate around formal coordination with some of our essential service providers and clearer arrangements around info sharing and restoration priorities. So in terms of it, although it's been introduced, it hasn't had its first reading yet. Some of the with this bill, and like many of the other bills we talked about today, cumulatively there's a lot of different levers being changed across the system which impact around emergency management as well, for example around resource management, and earlier this year in the phase two RM reform, we had that proposed package around a national policy statement on natural hazards, with the indication of that continuing into the new national direction. So there's quite a lot of different things kind of moving around in this space alongside the emergency management bill, just as a heads up. Once it's sort of been through the process, be considered in terms of budget 26, in terms of what investment is going to go into the system improvement program. And yeah, in theory by late 26 this will pass into law. But yeah, no submission date for that one as yet. Land transport funding tools, a couple, just a note, this one's probably not as exciting as some of the other ones. It's around phasing out fuel excise duty. For those that sit on the Regional Transport Committee, you'll know that that makes up about a big percentage of how the National Land Transport Fund receives its income to then distribute across councils and NZTA in terms of the National Land Transport Plan. So it's a bit of a shift in how the transport system is funded going forward to reflect, I guess, changing vehicles and the fleet mix changing as well. And it kind of continues some of the themes that we've seen in the previous transport announcements to date around increased road maintenance budgets and move away from like an active transport of business, etc. In terms of this, we expect it to come in sort of mid next year and the system live by mid to late 27. So that phasing will be in that same 2027 and then moving into the 2030 long-term plan as well in terms of when the period it will start to cover. What it means for council, alongside some of the other work we're doing, it's about having some discussions with our communities around trade-offs and around how we pay for things. And under the funding tools, there is some cost recovery mechanisms. However, some of them are only at government level. Can't access them, so that's a point of submission for a lot of people. So this is aiming to improve efficiency, effectiveness and clarity around the land acquisition process under this Act. Big focus on delivery of infrastructure and targeted improvement. And also added in some pieces around recovery from emergencies through. So I guess in terms of what it means if it goes through, as a council, in theory, the acquisition process would be a bit quicker and easier for infrastructure projects should we be requiring to use that process. We don't have the full details of it yet, this is just high level, and it's waiting its first reading, that's why we haven't seen the detail yet, and to go through the committee process in 2020 as well. And submissions. As you will have heard, some of them we don't have dates for, the others are a general approach as a team, given the volume of submissions we've had over the last few years. We try to contribute to our sector body submissions unless there's something particularly specific or unique that we need to raise from a Tairāwhiti perspective. But just noting that we are definitely planning to make submissions on the RMP. And welcome any thoughts on if there's any in particular that you believe you should submit on as a council. And in terms of timeframes for them, for those that are due in February, we can bring that draft for discussion at your 29th of January council meeting, and if there are any that are due prior to that meeting, it would have to be back on the draft by email before
So
that.
just be responsive that if these are short time frames. Someone mentioned in Wellington on Wednesday that in 1989, when the transitions happened, there were close to 40 years worth of time for people to give feedback on it. This time there's 76 days, which include the Christmas period. Because people were pushing back on the 20th February, suddenly everything is due on the 20th of February because the government is obviously, trying to slot it into an election cycle later in the year. So it is tight time frame that our staff, our TNZ's working on. So if it comes down to it that there might be an email sent and I ask for feedback, give feedback, or let me know that you have no feedback so that I know that you've seen it, so that we don't then come to a council meeting and the council's like, oh, I have not seen this, but we haven't discussed it. So just be mindful that we're dealing with the Christmas period. After today, the first time we okay. Councillor Huriwai.
I just have a question through the Mayor. So when will the treaty compass analysis be applied to the specific submissions that council is going to make?
Yes, so we do that.
You said it hasn't been done yet?
No, so we do, as part of when we're developing our submissions and our point, we do look at our treaty compass to help inform that in our submission as well. So that's generally the approach we take, and our Māori Partnerships team are usually involved in all of the submission writing I've been involved in.
Yeah. Councillor Gregory.
I just want to acknowledge the staff and how tough, a lot of staff to go through, and especially in such a short time frame, especially when it's the best weather. So I'm sorry for that, but thank you for your work. And also, this just happens over and over again. The government changes, they say they're going to do some stuff, and then they do the stuff and we pay for it, really. So what's the likelihood of all of any of this reverting back after the next election?
I know that the RMA has had some cross-party collaboration, because we are asking for enduring change, not change every while, but we're not in charge of that process.
I guess we'll start to see more of that start to come out now that the drafts are public as well, and we can consider that in terms of the possible impacts post an election if there was a change in government in terms of business continuity and our work programs. But my crystal ball is in overdrive at the moment.
Thank you for that update. Another observation yesterday was that there's so much being done at such great pace and at such huge scale that councillors and governors around the country are not aware of it. You cannot get your head around the tsunami of change that is coming. It is huge, and for us it's a little bit less than most other councils, because everyone else needs to do that, that board with the regional council stuff, which at least we don't have to do at this stage. So there's huge disruption in the system. I also want to acknowledge there would be some disruption for staff who feel the government are announcing some changes, or how will that affect how I move forward. So if you can give staff some comfort as well in that regard, how, timeframes and how we move forward. Thank you, Charlotte. It's like we need a lie down now after all of that. Should I say Merry Christmas? Merry Christmas. Thank you for that. Councillor Ria has moved that paper, seconded by Councillor Parata. All in favour? Aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you. I now, before we close this meeting, just want to acknowledge publicly our new council. Thank you for the relative short journey we have been on together. It's been a joyous time. We learned a lot about each other. We're going to spend a lot of time together, so we might just as well be semi-mates. So thank you for that. I do want to acknowledge Nadine and her staff for the work you have done. It's been election year is always a disruptive year. So thank you to our peanut gallery over there as well. Yes, Tim, I'm talking to you. Thank you very much for the great work you guys put into this organisation and into this community. And last but not least, Donna, welcome. Donna will be juggling snakes. Donna is in charge of all councillors, so Godspeed to you. And thank you, Jules, Sally, everyone in the office who looks after councillors and the team. It's much appreciated. And then from us at the Gisborne District Council to the public, Merry Christmas. Only 14 sleeps to go. So yes, Colin, I hope you've wrapped up some gifts and put it under the tree already. But yes, so before I close the public meeting, just Merry Christmas to everyone. We will see you in 2026.